Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a super interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Remette RT Swordfish gravity knife. I'm going to tell you right now, this is easily one of the coolest knives to release in 2024. This is a gravity knife, period. So, if you're new, you might be thinking, I thought those were illegal everywhere. They're not, but they are definitely illegal in some places. Here in Kansas, for example, I can own it, I can carry it, all of that, totally fine. Other states, definitely a huge problem, and other countries, I think, definitely a huge problem. So check your local laws, because this is available. It's super cool. I have a bunch of nice things to say about it. If you are able to legally own it, then yeah, for sure. I'll link it right down in the description so you guys can check it out. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. And thanks so much to Remette for sending me I think they sent me 4 of them, and I'm happy to say that all of them were identical in terms of quality, action, fit and finish, all of that. They come in 2 different blade configurations. I guess we'll call this a clip point, and then there's a tanto. They very obviously need a double edge. I don't know what is stopping them from doing that. And also, I think maybe more of a classic drop point. I don't know. They could do a bunch of different things here, but they do have the DLC and the satin, and I'm going to call it the satin, and they're definitely cool. So anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. The overall length of the RT Swordfish is coming in at about 7.75 inches. Blade length is about 3 1/8. Cutting edge is about 3. It does feel like a full-size 8-inch knife. I can barely tell the difference between this and something like the Microtech Ultratech. And I think it just has a bigger presence because the scales are thicker, and because it's such a wild object, your mind kind of tricks you into thinking it's much bigger than it is. So it does feel like a full-size knife. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Up against how does he define full-size knife? About 8 inches. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5. Slender, but definitely longer than something like the 8020.5. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? You can see here, cutting edge is actually, I think, identical. Maybe just a hair longer than the PM2. Sorry, my fingers are still gross. The material, the strap material at the gym just rubbed my fingers raw. I wasn't even paying attention. But anyways, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. Very similar to the Hogue Deca in overall length, right? Handle length, right? It's just a thicker object. How's the action? Well, we judge this differently than pretty much everything else that I've ever handled, except for like the Remette XO. The way that this operates, you push this up and these little wings, these spring-loaded wings come out, and it just, gravity does the rest, right? It is really, really satisfying to operate this. This is one of those knives where it's like, do we need this? No, but that doesn't need to be pointed out, right? I mean, if you're about to pat yourself on the back, if you're about to say, excuse me, Metal Complex, and just tell me what, like you're a reporter. Does the knife world actually need such an object? I mean, I consider myself quite the scholar when it comes to advancements in technology and innovation in the knife world, and I have to ask, does the knife world need anything like this? No, we don't need it. What are you talking about? Are you watching my channel? Are you asking about what we need and what we don't need? I have over 4,000 uploads. Most of it we don't need. We're here because we like it, because it's fun, because it's interesting, right? That's the whole reason that I do this, because it's fun, right? No, we don't need this, but man, is it cool. It is so fun to operate this one. The Remette XO has its own weird sort of fidget factor. It comes apart, right? And it's got its own different thing. And I have a feeling that some people will love this more than the XO, and other people will enjoy the XO more than this. if you were to ask me, which one do you like better? It's literally impossible because I like them both. They're really cool. I guess this one is probably more simple to operate. You're less likely to drop it because the thing doesn't like come halfway apart. And I think this is probably a simpler operation and technically a safer operation because the thing wants to automatically spring itself into the open and closed position, these wings, right? I will point out, if you don't get the blade all the way out, like right here, it's not locked out. It's actually still sliding on that little tab at the bottom, not the blade. If it gets stuck right here, right, where it's kind of grinding, what it's grinding on is that little piece at the bottom. It's not grinding on the cutting edge, but if it doesn't get all the way out, it has just this little tiny space for those wings to get underneath there, but it does, and those wings go under a good amount, so it does firmly lock the blade out, but you really need to make sure that the thing is like almost upside down and the blade is completely open and out before you let go. Otherwise, it will not be locked out, right? But yeah, it's very fun and very smooth to deploy. It does make sort of a metal on metal shing sound. Some people like that, some people don't. But the only thing it's grinding on would be like the back here. I mean, you can kind of see actually. Does it show it? Yeah. You can see right this a little bit. Can you actually make it out? A little bit right there. You are going to get little blemishes. You can feel it right there. You're going to get little blemishes and marks on this area right here, which is, I'm not sure how they would get around that given the system, right? Unless, actually I do know, this would need to be machined slightly in, and then you would need a tab like on this side so it keeps these wings from rubbing on surfaces you don't want them to rub on. Now the only bad thing here is just he's going to make a little blemish back here. So if they did a double edge, then obviously they would do the same thing as they did over here. It would just rub on this tab, which you can't see anyway, right? That's probably what they should have done, but this is how they did it. Personally, I don't really care, but it is something to note on the DLC versions, which, by the way, as far as I know, is real DLC. Eventually, that will mark up. It'll take a long time to actually scratch the DLC, but eventually it will. So there you go. Anyways, carry profile. It's kind of a thick guy, but in a really satisfying way. By the way, this has got the toxic, it looks like evil boogers, carbon fiber inlay. There's melted American flag or Nebula carbon fiber. And then there's regular carbon fiber, which is actually my favorite. This is a really, really good idea because I was canceling a call there. That's why the screen shook. But these can be swapped out. You pull these two screws out, it comes out. You can put a different one back in. I think they sell those inlays individually, but don't quote me on that. They definitely need to expand on this. They don't have a lot of different ideas for these right now, but definitely something that should be expanded on because it can really change the whole appearance of your knife. But anyways, carry profile. It's not that bad. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. It's not that bad. I guess because of the body, it just kind of appears a little thicker. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. Where is the Para 3? The PM2 is right here. This is actually a super duper easy object to carry because of the profile. It's exactly the same experience as carrying your run-of-the-mill popular American OTFs like your Guardian Tactical Recon 35. It's a little thicker than something like the Microtech Ultratech, which is actually right here. I think that's a really good size comparison. It's a little thicker, but it's hardly any different. The thing carries very, very similarly. In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this thing out and just give you guys a little bit of a size comparison there with the Microtech Ultratech, because that's what it makes me think of the most, right? It's a little wider, a little thicker, but not much. Let's go ahead and just, since my calipers are right here, I'm going to measure the blade stock thickness real quick. Blade stock thickness on this guy is coming in at... Is that right? I feel like that's thinner than it should be. Let's try again. Make sure that we are absolutely zeroed out. Yeah, okay, it's saying it's 116 thousandths. Not bad. Not a lot of room on the blade, right? But not bad. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Just note here, my scale is a little out of whack, so it's not perfectly accurate, but I do have a new one on the way. It's sad. This scale's been with the channel for literally the channel's entire life. It's time. This thing it lasted 6.5 years. This scale has done its job. 4.3 ounces, give or take. a quarter ounce. The accuracy of the scale is not great, sorry. But yeah, 4.3 ounces, it's not bad, right? That might be heavy to some people, but it's not incredibly heavy. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Yes, you can actually take this thing apart. Sorry about that. I just wanted to actually do it so you could see. But basically what you didn't see there was me just taking out the 2 screws for the inlay and literally the 2 screws for the pocket clip. This gives you access to the inside of the knife. And there's a reason that I'm doing this. I normally don't do the disassemblies, but I'll give you guys kind of a look here of how that works. This will allow the blade to, let's see if I can do it without accidentally cutting myself. There we go. Move it forward just a little bit. It's just a little bit dangerous, tricky to do without, you know, without the cover plate on. But this is a right and left-handed knife. And you can see here there's a little the spring in there. Sorry. You push it forward. It's hard to do this and hold onto the blade, but that spring is what's pulling those wings back down. These 2 screws, you take them out and the blade can literally be flipped over. So you might have been thinking, you know, there's only one place for the pocket clip. It's not on the other side. If you flip the blade over, it allows left-handed people to carry it exactly the same way as a right-handed person. So this is just like dramatically less complicated than I think most people would think. It's so easy to get into it if you do end up getting debris. I'm telling you, right, I've taken apart like automatics, you know, stuff like the Ultratech, the Scarab 2, actually I took apart. And I don't think those are all that intimidating, but this is way easier than I think anyone ever would have guessed that it would be. So I think that's really, really cool. It's literally just 4 screws. Unfortunately, they are T6. I forgot to say how my tools are extremely inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel or in the pinned comment. But unfortunately, it's T6. But there's enough threads on all the screws and I'm not worried about it. I mean, no different than any other standard folding knife, right? So yeah, and there's no pivot to adjust or anything like that. It's just 4 screws and you take the plate off and that's it. So anyways, we'll get this back together and we'll move forward. Okay, and we're back together and the thing works perfectly, completely solid, no issues whatsoever. I know some people might want to see that process, but I can assure you the process of removing 4 screws is actually pretty boring and it's just me trying to cover up that otherwise, you know, silence with awkward dialogue. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on here. We've done the weight, the blade stock thickness, the hardware check. We've shown the inside of the knife. Meat and potatoes, right? How strong is the locking system? Well, if you watch the unboxing video, I immediately took it outside. You can go back and watch the unboxing video. And this knife is actually in the thumbnail. You can go to my unboxing content by going to my playlists and choosing the playlist that says unboxings. But I actually took it outside, wore gloves, and I squeezed onto these wings. I mean, these things are responsible for locking the blade out on both sides. There is a substantial amount of material underneath that blade, but not so much that I would look at this and think, this was clearly intended to be the most hardcore, durable of, you know, systems. Like I said, it's clearly not designed to like withstand bomb blasts or be used as a prying tool. But were these dependable enough when because I was essentially holding it like this with gloves? Was it dependable enough to jam into my fence 4 times? The 4th one actually really hard. Yes, it was. It held up. I think this was the exact one that I used. And it's fine. I mean, the system is fine. Would I trust it holding back here? No, I wouldn't. A lot of people look at these and they just can't help but think it must be a weapon. This must be designed as a weapon. And so therefore it must be able to withstand that type of, I mean, okay, I can't stop people from thinking that. To me, this is more of a convenient tool, right? That's how it appears to me. I was impressed that the wings held up to those 4 jabs, right? I'm never going to use it that way. I'm going to use it like a tool. So if you're like me and you're going to use it like a tool, do you need to worry about the lock failing? Well, no. Under normal circumstances, it's not going to disengage with up and down pressure. It would be pressure from here, right? And as long as you're holding on hard enough, well, yeah. But I mean, how many times as a tool are you going to need to do this with it, right? So in my opinion, the locking system is perfectly suited for what I think this was designed for. I mean, nothing on their website says anything about, as far as I know, anything about self-defense or weapon or anything like that. So that's how I look at this. I think the locking system is fine. The only issue I have with it is, like I said, it kind of grinds on the spine of these, both the clip point and the tanto blade, right? So maybe a tab, like bring the spine in and have it rub against the tab like it does on this side. That would be much better. But yeah, I think it's fine. In the open position, when my hands are not on the wings, there is a microscopic amount of play. The more that I move it around, the more I can get it to move, but not much, and certainly less than something like the Ultratech, right? Doing the same thing, just a little bit. If I'm holding on to these wings, nothing. So pretty cool, right? And no stick or anything like that. I mean, it really does feel solid. So I think that's really cool. As far as ergonomics go, it's pretty good, honestly. I mean, your index finger kind of falls to this little pad right here, and it's almost like kind of comfy for the index finger, right? If you choke up on it, it's okay. The wings are knocked down enough. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, right? The texturing actually has a little bit of feel to it, which is really cool. There's actually a couple different types of texturing. We have this optical illusion texturing, which I've never seen before. I think it's really, really cool. And then there's another one that's maybe like a golf ball pattern or a diamond texture. I'm not really sure, but it's on both sides. It's not crazy enough that the clip, causes like too much friction on your pocket seam or anything like that. I think it's just fine. The blade is M390, and I believe Remette is hitting that from 60 to 62. Bravo. Nice work, Remette. Big thumbs up. Big W on that. Really like that. The blade is sort of like a glass blasting. I think it's pretty cool. It's a little fuller in there. Behind the edge, it's a little bit thick, not crazy, right? It's I'd say maybe medium. I don't know, however you take that, right? It can slice, it can cut, it can poke. It'll do exactly what you expect it to do. They didn't put jimping up here, and I think the reason might be because they don't want you putting pressure on the spine, maybe because of the angle of the wings, right? Pushing on the spine, it doesn't feel like anything's going to disengage. I don't know what the reasoning was there. The wings themselves actually do have like jimping. So, I mean, holding it like this is actually probably the most comfortable grip. It's the hammer grip's okay. This is a little better, right? It's just like a fun object to use in an EDC setting. It's not more, I think it's probably, I don't know, it's hard to make an argument for more or less practical than like a standard, something like the Rat 2. This is definitely more fun though. I can say that, right? And it will do essentially what any other regular folding knife will do. It's just that some laws in some areas will, get you in a lot of trouble because the laws are stupid. But what are you going to do, right? It says Remette right here. That's not the worst place in the world, but I would prefer it wasn't there. Everything else, it says M390 right here. There's not really a whole lot of anything else going on. I think what they chose to do with this area is pretty cool. The pocket clip, I think, is just fine, relatively deep. There is kind of an awkward lanyard slot thing back here, but I don't know how many people are actually going to attach lanyards to it. This is really, really cool. I really like this. I think it's really fun. I wish that everybody had the luxury of enjoying things like gravity knives, which are legitimately no more or less dangerous than the Walmart knives that you can get over the counter. I mean, like, you're always going to have the goofballs and the tactical crowds trying to convince people that this is some sort of like, combat. It's like, can do more damage like in a faster, whatever. No, you can go down to Walmart and buy a cheap Kershaw that'll be essentially just as dangerous, right? But the thing is I just don't think of stuff like this as a weapon. I think of it as an interesting and convenient cutting tool, right? It's the case is titanium. The whole thing is titanium. This is a lot of titanium. And properly heat-treated M390, and it's a well-executed and unique system in terms of exactly how it operates. Not the gravity element itself, but there's this system that allows that to, that allows gravity to manipulate the blade. It's really cool. I like it. I also am really impressed with Remette's pricing. Yes, these are made in China, but let's compare, right? We can only really compare it to one other gravity knife on the market that is in the same caliber, right? I'm sure there's like weird, cheapy stuff here or there, but the other one was made by Riyadh, and it's really nice and honestly was priced better than I thought it would be as well. I can easily see companies making things like this and charging way over $300 for them. If we compare them with the standard knives, like just titanium and M390, right, executed similarly, it's still not a bad price, right? When you're actually comparing against the really high quality stuff. So I'm not really upset with $278. I think it's a little more for, the black one, but it's really not bad. I think this is all the way around really cool. Obviously, it's not going to be for everybody. It might be a little thicker than some people might want to carry. It might be a little heavier than some people might want to carry. The gravity element is not something that appeals to everybody, and it's definitely not legal everywhere. Some people just really don't like the sound of metal grinding against metal, which I can understand. But if none of that stuff, if you're like, no, none of that applies to me, and you got, you're looking to spend between $250 and $300 on a knife, and you want something more interesting, this might be the answer for you. I mean, it's let me say this. The knife world has churned out some of the most interesting stuff that I have ever seen over the last 3 years. At the same time, the knife world has churned out more boring knives than I have seen ever, right? In the last 3 years, more boring, identical stuff has released. So this is one of those things that's much more interesting to collectors, enthusiasts, or just people looking to switch it up, right? So if it's legal, and if you are interested in the whole gravity element here, definitely recommendable. But it's very obviously not going to be for everybody. So for that reason, it's not going in my most recommended knives playlist, but it is going into my favorite knives of all time playlist because personally, I love this. And that's why those two playlists are separate, right? So I hope that makes a lot of sense. But I will link this down in the description so you guys can check it out if you want to. Thanks again to Remette for sending it in. I forgot. It does come with a little leather pouch. The original ones did not come with pocket clips. I don't know why they decided to do that later, but obviously it should have come with a pocket clip to begin with. Because then people who don't like clips can simply remove the clip. But anyways, that's going to be it for today. Very, very cool. Right now, as of right now, middle of the year, it's looking like this is going to go in the best of the best for 2024. This one has a solid place on that list. I very much like it. I think it's interesting, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. So, anyways, please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.